Hello and welcome to this, the latest in the Field Service News webcast. My name's Kris Oldland. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Field Service News, and today I'm joined by Alice Walton and Michael Smythe from eBECS. And we've got a fantastic presentation which is focusing on the top 3 pains: mobile data collection, importance of data flow, and reducing costs. I'm going to hand it straight across to Michael now, who'll begin the presentation. Michael, how are you doing?
Very good, thank you, Kris. Thank you very much, and hello, everybody. As Kris just said, my name is Michael Smythe. I am a field service sales solutions consultant for eBECS. Just very quickly, a little introduction to who we are and what we do. eBECS, UK-based Microsoft Gold partner for everything, including CRM Dynamics 365, which includes Dynamics 365 for field service. We are, as an organization, 380 plus staff, over 400 customer implementations of Dynamics. We've been going since around 1999, and we are still privately owned and managed, and that's a really key thing for us, is that we are the same people that sat around the kitchen table back in 1999 to form eBECS are the same people that are operating the business today. And as a result, we have a very customer-led attitude, and right from the very top of the organization, we really do care about customer outcomes and the quality of our implementations. As a business, we are 100% Microsoft focused, which means that all of our investment, all of our personnel, all of our technology is based around the Microsoft solution stack. And that means that we can deliver the whole of the Microsoft solution stack, which you'll see on the next slide. We have annual revenues in excess of £40 million, and we are what is termed a DXC Strategic Alliance affiliate. And what that means is that DXC, an organization which came around at the beginning of 2017 with the merger of CSC and Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Services, that came together to form DXC, which is a $25 billion turnover organization, and they own a minority stake in eBECS, recognizing our expertise in delivering Dynamics-based solutions. And it also means we can leverage their infrastructure and a consultancy base in the region of about 1,500 to 1,700 Dynamics competent consultants across the world. If we can move on to the next slide. What this slide is showing in the center here is an infographic which displays in a nutshell, the products and services that eBECS offer. As we mentioned, we are a total Microsoft Business Solutions provider. We deliver the whole of the Microsoft solution stack, and that includes at the heart of our operations the Microsoft Dynamics 365 suite, which I'll discuss in more detail shortly. Above there, you'll see the 3 kind of mini clouds. That represents the fact that we are a cloud services specialist, which we offer eBECS managed services with Azure-based private and hybrid cloud solutions. And also we have a dedicated practice within the business for analytics, business intelligence, IoT. And really this is the beginning of what we're talking about within this webinar today, is the idea that we're talking about joining up business processes, joining up business flow, and that's the adoption of Dynamics 365 facilitates that, but it's further augmented by the supplementary capabilities that are outlined there. Hopefully I've given you enough time to have a look at the various awards around the outside of the slide there. The one I'd like to draw your attention to in particular is the second one on the top row, the Microsoft Dynamics Services Partner of the Year. You'll notice that we've won that 6 or 7 times out of the last 8 years. We are incredibly proud of this. It is a direct reflection of the quality of our implementations. It's the services part of the business that actually delivers the Microsoft technology, our consultants, our developers, business analysts, and so on. And they're the ones that ensure that our projects drive real value for our customers. And it's this award from Microsoft, repeatedly won, which demonstrates our capability in this area. Moving on to the next slide, you'll see here more information about Microsoft Dynamics 365 as a platform. This slide here shows within the center of it the kind of the figure of 8 or the infinity sign there, shows each of the individual Dynamics 365 business process applications. Field service down in the bottom right, linking through with marketing, project service automation, finance and operations, talent, which is the new HR module, retail capability, sales and customer service, all on a single platform, which is Dynamics 365, but all with out-of-the-box ready line of business applications designed for each of those functional areas. So there is a field service application, a customer service application, a sales application already designed, which we believe is, from our experience, 85–90% ready for most of our customers to be able to adopt out of the box. And that's a key thing with how we implement. It's a product first standard implementation as our preferred methodology, trying to reduce customization where possible. Around the outside there, you'll have the various supporting services associated with Dynamics 365. And I think the key message to take away from all of this is that infinity symbol, that single line connecting all of those applications together, is demonstrating the fact that it's on a single platform, joined up, no isolated systems, no niche silos of information, which are preventing good quality business decisions being made due to the lack of joined up data and joined up information. And that's further enhanced by the fact that we have in the bottom left hand corner this thing called the Common Data Service, which supports data that is across the whole of the Dynamics 365 platform, but also Office 365, the applications that you're used to using in the Office 365 platform, like Word, Outlook, and so on. And it means that we're able to surface information from one part of the business, automate its flow to another part of the business, or indeed just use that for reporting purposes, pulling from different sources using a single common data service. And that's what's really revolutionary with Dynamics 365, is the idea that you have joined up application suite, but you also have the ability to then be able to use this common data service for the interrogation and movement of data across that application suite, but also beyond. And then I think just to finish off with my introduction before I pass over to Alice, our solution sales consultant specializing in field service, to carry out some demonstrations and talk about some functional capability. Just a few examples of our industry verticals and some of our customers. With regard to field service projects in particular, I'll draw your attention to Morgan Sindall Property Services, with around about 500 field service users using the Microsoft Dynamics 365 field service application for managing their field service and social housing operations. Glass Solutions, likewise, a commercial glazing and fitting organisation, part of the Saint-Gobain Group, around about 450 engineers there, and they've been able to completely paperless rather, following the implementation of Dynamics 365 and a piece of IP which Alice will mention in more detail here that we've developed, called the Site Assessment Survey Tool. Glass Solutions actually had in excess of 150 individual survey forms that their team had to carry around with them and complete at various points within their process. They've now gone completely, and we've completely digitized the whole operation. Many other field service organizations in there, but what I'm hoping that you'll be able to see is that there are a broad range of customers, both large and small, and many different verticals. And we have assisted every single one of those organizations there to take either a small part of the Dynamics 365 platform and then build from that, building a genuinely cohesive business operating process on the back of that, or they've adopted the whole thing from the outset. And that's one thing that hopefully will become clear as this webinar proceeds, is that field service as an application can be standalone, but it really plays to its strengths when it's part of a further adoption program of the other elements of Dynamics 365, bringing various business processes together. I think that's probably enough from me. I'll now pass over to Alice to introduce herself and to carry on showing you some functional demonstration.
Thanks, Michael. So I'm Alice Walton. So I'm a solutions consultant at eBECS, so specialising in showing Dynamics 365, all of the areas, but particularly today I'm going to focus on Dynamics 365 for field service. So we're going to touch on a few of these main areas that are shown on this slide here. Really what we're going to look at today is the customer side. So we're going to start by actually raising a case and alerting someone that we've actually got a problem. And then we're going to look at some really key areas, including mobility. So this is an area where you can actually engage your technicians and they actually operate on the mobile device. It's really trying to reduce those costs and reduce that contacts that needs to be made between the technician and your operations center, because this can actually be done via the mobile device itself. A lot of what we're trying to do with field service for customers is reduce their costs and also improve their productivity. In terms of productivity, we've got a lot of tools within inside Microsoft Dynamics 365, particularly the field service side. And this enables the right engineer to actually be scheduled and therefore increasing the productivity. But a lot of what we've done with our eBECS field service accelerator, which I'll touch on in a second, is aimed at improving that customer satisfaction levels as well. So it's really making sure that the customer gets that best service, and when they actually raise that they've got an issue with something perhaps in their property or with a piece of equipment that's inside their organization, that they're actually getting that response that they need. So we need to be able to alert the customer and let them know that they're actually going to receive a field service engineer out on site, and it's all about that communication. So whether it's sending a customer an email to let them know when their appointment is actually due, or sending an SMS message when the engineer is actually traveling to site. So all of these things we can actually utilize to improve the customer experience. So in terms of our field service accelerator, so this is the IP that Michael mentioned previously. So we've actually built this based on our experience of implementing Dynamics 365 field service. And we've included a lot of these features in this based on that experience. So one of the main projects was Glass Solutions that Michael mentioned before. And later in the presentation, I'll talk about our site assessment survey and really go into and show you what that can actually do. But in terms of some of these features that we've got here, I'm going to touch first on the portal capabilities that we've added onto the Microsoft Dynamics 365 portals. And what this actually enables you to do is allow your customers to have that automated journey rather than having to have call centers and contact staff agents, which ultimately increases cost. Really, the portal can actually reduce that cost and enable that data flow to pass seamlessly through from the portal across into the Dynamics 365 field service platform to actually get the engineer scheduled. I'll go through that, and then I'll also touch on our scheduling capabilities that we've built in there. And then we'll look at the mobile area and then finish off with our Power BI and case financials area. So to get started, I've got the client customer portal. So we'll see from the video here that we're actually able, as a customer, to log on to our portal, which will be branded for the customer, and we can open a service case. So this actually enables us to open an issue against a specific site. So in this case, we've got an issue with our boiler at an apartment, and what we need to do is raise that against a contract. So this actually enables us to do our costing against the contract, so we can see whether our contracts are profitable and which ones aren't profitable. And as a customer, we can actually upload a picture of the issue, so that when this gets submitted and the data flows through to Dynamics 365, the customer service representative that picks this up will be able to see what the issue is and look at the photo that the customer sent through. And this means we can then send the right engineer. So it's all about the scheduling of the right person, again, to reduce those costs of sending out someone until we actually know what the issue is. So once the customers raise the issue via the portal, we then move into our scheduling and dispatch of the engineer. So this is where we really need to make sure that we get that best technician scheduled. And to do this inside field service, we've got our characteristics and our levels of certification that each of our engineers have. So this is one of the areas where Michael mentioned that data flow between all of those areas of Dynamics 365, the applications that we've got in there. And it's very important to keep in sync the characteristics that those engineers actually have. So this really drives the optimization of the schedule within inside Dynamics 365. And another really key point of that scheduling assistant that we get inside Dynamics is the location of the customer, and then also the location of the engineer that we're scheduling. So a lot of the time with field service organizations, we get them coming to us and say, look, how do I actually reduce this time that our engineers are spending? So for example, we haven't got a piece of technology that can actually show us where the customer is and map it in terms of finding the best available technician. So what field service actually does is schedules it using the location of both the customer and the engineer to get that shortest amount of travel time to ultimately maximize the customer experience, because they're not having to wait a long time for the person to come, and then also to reduce the cost of the organization as well. So another key part that I mentioned before about the customer experience side of things is the importance of the customer being informed and keeping the SLAs. So inside Dynamics 365 for field service, we've got our SLA management. So this is to manage your service level agreements that you have with the customer. And field service fully takes into account these SLAs as part of our eBECS field service accelerator. So what we've actually done is, as part of the IP, we've built in a tool that pulls through the SLA and it populates our time to and time from promise that we have in field service. And what that actually means in reality is that when we schedule as a scheduler or a operations staff inside our operations center, we actually then take into account that SLA that we need to meet with the customer. So say, for example, with a certain customer contract, we've got that our SLA for sending out an engineer is within a day. We actually need to pull that through to our scheduler and make sure that when we schedule the time, we're actually going to meet that SLA for the customer. So in terms of our different scheduling options, this is our multi-resource scheduling that we've got inside our accelerator. So what this actually is showing on the video now is actually drag and dropping the available resource engineer that we've got. So we need to actually schedule in 2 resources for this particular job type that we've got. So you can see here now we're selecting the correct engineer that we want to be sent out, and we can actually book that engineer in. On the schedule board, we now see that we've got the skills for the resources, and we can see that we've got different resources and they've got different appointments booked on the schedule board. So the different colours that we've got here as well are the blue ones are the scheduled ones that we see, and we get to see the different status updates that these work orders are actually at. So we can actually see in a live updated scenario, because it's feeding through from the mobile client, where our engineers are and also what status of that job that we're at. And this becomes very important for our resource managers, because as we're looking to schedule new jobs in for the future, we need to be able to see if the engineers completed that job before we look to schedule a future job. So our multi-resource scheduling functionality is really aimed at being able to deal with those scenarios where we need 2, or we can have more, we can have 3 engineers that are actually scheduled for the same job at the same time, because they might require different skills, for example, so different levels. So we've got an engineer and an apprentice to actually do that job, rather than the standard Dynamics 365 capabilities is just to schedule 1 engineer. So we've really enhanced that capability that we get with Microsoft and added this layer on the top. Another feature that we've got inside the accelerator is our quick scheduling functionality. So this video is actually demonstrating the scheduling of a case record. And what this means is the customers actually raise the case via the portal. And as a scheduler, we can actually directly schedule straight from the case record. So it means we don't have to leave another screen. We can actually look at the resources, we can look at their skills, make sure they match those skills that we're actually looking for. And we can see we've got, again, 2 resources that need to be booked. So we book our first resource, so that's our gas certified engineer. And then we also book our plumber as well. So once we've booked both of them in, we can then see that the case, against the case, we can see the work order has now been scheduled for the customer. And then this is where we can drive our customer alert. So we can send the customer an email, or we can show it on the portal that it's been scheduled. And we've got that option to really keep the customer informed to improve that customer satisfaction levels. So the final part of our scheduling functionality that we've got inside the IP is to have our scheduling alert show to the person that's scheduling, so a resource manager. And what this is showing is that if we don't actually have the required stock or the required skills for the engineer, it's actually going to alert the resource manager. So this is really important, because inside field service, if we're trying to send a resource that doesn't have the required van stock, so if we're going to do a boiler repair, if they haven't got the required plumbing pipes, like the pipes or the parts, we're not actually going to want to schedule that engineer. So what this does is does a check of the van stock against the resource, and then it will alert the resource manager to show them whether that resource that we're trying to schedule has got those required van stock levels. And it also does a check of the characteristics. So there are skills such as gas certified engineer, and we just again perform an alert and show that alert to the scheduling manager if they haven't actually got those required characteristics. So these can actually be enhanced as well. These are just the ones that were built inside our IP for now, but customers can also get additional alerts performed if required. So in terms of our mobile capabilities, so inside Dynamics 365, we actually get the mobile application. So this really enables your engineers to look at their jobs and interact with the work order on either an iOS, Android or Windows mobile device, or also a tablet device as well. So whichever device people are using, this will actually enable the engineer to go on and look at the work order, which is essentially our job that shows the customer location. And it actually enables you to then look at all of the instructions and the customer information as well. So this is where we've got our data flow that automatically comes through onto the mobile device once we sync. And a very important piece for our customers that we often get involved with in implementing for the customer is the offline capability. So this is something that we get with the Resco mobile CRM app. So this actually enables you to go offline. So once the engineer gets into an area where they haven't got any 4G or Wi-Fi connectivity, the mobile app has actually downloaded the data onto the actual device itself. And what that means is the engineer can continue working on the job, so they can look at the work order details, get the customer sign off and do our site assessment survey, which I'll show very shortly. They can do things like take photos of the work. And this means that as soon as they get their internet connectivity back up, so they go back into a 4G or Wi-Fi area, it will actually sync the data back up to Dynamics 365. So this is where we've got the data then flowing back to the scheduling or resource manager, so they can actually see those live real-time updates of where the engineer actually is. So when I went back to the schedule board scenario before, so as soon as the engineer actually says they've completed the job and that data syncs back from the app to the Dynamics 365 field service browser version, we can actually then see as a scheduling resource manager that they've completed that job and now ready for more jobs to be scheduled in for that day. So in terms of the actual functionality that we've built inside our IP, we see that this one is our status progression control. So what we're seeing here is that our traveling status is being updated. And what this means is, as an engineer, we've gone onto the mobile app, we've looked at our job, and we've said that we're traveling and now gone into in progress. And what that means is that it automatically timestamps our travel time. And when we go from in progress to completed, that's when we then get that status update back to the organisation centre, so the operations centre that we've got. So this is really important for our timestamping, because what we might want to do as an organisation is only have customers charged for the time that are actually doing in progress job. So as soon as the engineer states that they're in progress for that job, it will automatically do the timestamping for just that bit and calculate the cost for that. And then any travel time could be non-chargeable to the customer. So what this does with the status progression controls is it's really controlling that the engineer can't just go straight from arriving onto the site and going straight to completed. It actually forces the engineer to go through those status updates to say that they've travelled and in progress, just so that timestamps work. So that's all fully configurable for the customer as well. They can add in their own status options that you get available. We can add them in for the customer. So this is the piece of IP that Michael mentioned right at the start of the webinar. So we built this for Glass Solutions, but we've now turned this into a piece of the eBECS IP called Site Assessment Survey. So we can see a survey just running through there. We can see that as an engineer on the mobile device, we can actually go through and conduct a survey. So we can see that we can capture images on that. And we've got the ability to actually do our action control. So we can see that one there, we selected no, it highlights it red. And it can actually force the engineer to type in certain values. So say, for example, a certain option is selected, we can actually force them to put in more information or complete a follow-up question. And the great thing about this is it's fully configurable by the customer themselves. So it's not something you have to come back to eBECS to constantly get your questions updated. It's actually something that's built by the customers internally. So typically we do training and teach the customers how to actually create the surveys themselves and also the questions. And we can see here that we can actually do things like embed signatures within the survey. And one of the features that was shown just then was our weighted scoring. And the scoring actually enables the score to be calculated as we go through the survey. So again, this is fully configurable. And what this means is that if a particular question needs to have a certain weighting per answer, we can actually have that scoring calculated. So say, for example, we're on site and we're looking at a boiler and we get a temperature of maybe 70 degrees, for example. And what can happen is if that particular value is selected, that can give it a scoring to let you know that basically there's the risk of this temperature, for example. So what happens is we get the total score gets calculated at the end of the survey. And what this means is it can give us an output of maybe the risk level. So a lot of our customers are using the site assessment survey for things like risk assessments, site assessments, and anything that needs compliance behind it. So when an engineer is actually going out on site, you might need to validate that the site actually looks the way it does. And the way that we do that is on the survey, we've got our capture image functionality. And this actually date and time stamps it as well. So it will show exactly when that photograph was taken. And at the end of the survey, we're getting the customer signature on that as well. So it's fully compliant. The customer signed it off. And what happens is that, like I said, this works in offline and online mode as well. So this means that the engineer can actually do the survey in offline mode. And as soon as the data goes back, as soon as we get 4G connectivity on the device, that data will then sync back to Dynamics 365. So the data that actually then comes back in is just being shown in this video here. So inside Dynamics 365 itself, we've got our survey module, and we get our conducted surveys. So we can see that here we've got a survey example that we've got. So this is one of our completed surveys. So in terms of data flow, this is very important that the data is come back into Dynamics. We can look at all of the answers to the questions. We can even do things like drive actions on the back of these as well. And what this is showing now is our PDF that gets generated for the customer, really. So this can actually be automatically emailed to the customer, and it shows the pictures embedded inside there. And it also shows their signature at the end of that as well. So that shows that the customer has signed this off, and it's pulled through all of the answers as well. So that's just an example of how Dynamics Field Service with our Accelerator can really improve that data flow without any really manual intervention. So that's just an example of the signature that's actually come through into Dynamics 365 as well. So the PDF, like I said, is automatically generated. It can be automatic emails to the customer as well. And we can then store that inside Dynamics as well. So if we need to have auditing, if we've got any compliance, especially around health and safety and risk assessment areas, we can always go back to this data. It will be stored inside Dynamics 365, and we can open up the PDF, and it gives a full report of what was actually conducted on site by that field service engineer. So it's really using the power of Dynamics 365 for the mobile, and it's just adding our eBECS IP on top of that for site assessment survey, and the ability for the completed survey and report to be generated and stored inside Dynamics 365. So the last part of the field service IP that we've actually built as part of our Accelerator is our case financial summary. So as the engineers actually gone through and completed the work on site, so they've updated their status to say that they were traveling and then in progress and completed the job. The whole time this was done the time stamping against the booking that I mentioned before. And what this means is that we're able to track the entire cost and revenue throughout that visit that the engineers made. So with our eBECS Field Service Accelerator, we've actually got the ability for this to roll up to that case level. So this means we can have multiple work order jobs against that case level. And that means we can then track the cost and revenue at that case, or even contract level as well. So this is really important for reducing our field service operational costs, because we can actually use in Power BI, which is a reporting technology that Microsoft offers, we can actually visualize the contracts, so we can see which are our profitable contracts and which are our not so profitable contracts. And what this means is we can actually use this information to drive our productivity and to actually improve that that profitability, and look to reduce our costs in certain areas. So it actually enables us to really look at everything in terms of cost and revenue and summarize that inside our Power BI model that we've built at eBECS. So just to highlight a bit more about the Power BI model, we can see that we've got a lot of out-of-the-box dashboards. So in addition to the case financial summaries information that you see inside Dynamics, that's also then presented in Power BI. And we can also do travel analytics. So where I mentioned before about reducing costs, a lot of our customers are really looking at analysing that travel time that their engineers have. So we can actually look at things like the actual miles travelled, and we can break that down into a resource level. And what this means is a manager level, we can actually look at interrogating this data to see what we need to actually action. So it really provides the base template of the main things that you need to look at in field service. And then this can actually be enhanced for your organisation specifically. So if you want to see specific regions on a Power BI dashboard, that's something we can build. But really what we've done at eBECS is model the data that we get in field service so that we can actually then present it inside Power BI and overlay those visuals such as our charts and dashboards that we see on the screen there. And we can actually then enable an end user level for the customer. Then they can actually use this Power BI model data that we've created in our Accelerator. They can actually then create their own reports based on that data very easily and quickly, because we've actually now got the data actually structured correctly behind it. So it's really great for managers to be able to look at those specific areas that we've outlined. So one of the last things I want to mention is the ability for the other areas of the Microsoft platform to be introduced. So Michael showed at the very start, we've got our Infinity Circle, and we've got Microsoft Flow that sits on the outside of that. And what this actually enables us to do is connect to lots of different flow templates that Microsoft have built. So out of the box, we've got ones for connecting to social media streams such as Twitter. And we can do things like build it for the customer so that they get their own template. So they can actually use the Microsoft template, and they can use the Twitter template so that when a tweet is actually posted that meets the hashtag parameters, we can actually have that then feed into Dynamics 365. And what's great about Microsoft Flow is that the end user can actually use it at the customer level as well. So if you've got people within your organization that are maybe power users, we can actually provide flow training, and they can actually build their own templates to push data between different applications. So not just Dynamics 365 itself, but also other alerts that we can see on the screen there. There's a lot of templates available for Microsoft. You can go and look at them on Microsoft's Flow website, and you can see there's over 200 Flow templates that allow you to do that automated action without you need to manually create processes. So that's the end of the presentation that I was going to show. So I'll pass back over to Kris and Michael, and we'll do our Q&A session now. Thank you.
Guys, thank you very much. Really insightful presentation. I've been furiously scribbling down my notes as we went through, and I've got a few questions, if I may. Alice, I'll start with some questions for yourself that came out of your side of the presentation. It's really great to see the actual tools in action, so thank you for that.
Welcome.
One thing I wanted to pick up on was the scoring system that you kind of flagged up there in the site survey assessment tool. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because it seemed quite interesting. Obviously, there was an awful lot to cram in, and we kind of skimmed over that a tiny bit. How does that bring value to the end user, and what's kind of the thinking behind that?
Yeah, so we've built the scoring mechanism to enable customers to actually, when the engineer is going through filling out, completing the survey, it's actually calculating that total score in the background. So our customer examples that we've got for this are surrounding calculating risk and vulnerability levels. So we've worked a lot with social housing. So it's a lot that social housing companies could actually do with the scoring mechanism. So it can actually calculate based on the answers. It can actually calculate the either risk levels or vulnerability levels. And that data, when that flows back into Dynamics 365, as I showed in the demonstration, when that actually comes back, we can then calculate that total score. And this can be fully configured by the customer themselves. They can actually, when they set up the questions and the answer options for them, they can actually fully configure the scoring. So really, we've built it to be a configurable tool that the customer's then building their own scoring matrix around that.
That's a nice segue actually into another question I wanted to pick up with you. You mentioned configuration a number of times across the presentation, and you mentioned eBECS is able to come in and offer training for your clients.
Yeah.
Who are you training? So the reason I ask is this something that the field service manager or the service directors, the operation guys can do? Or is it something that needs to sit within an IT department? There's obviously got to be a baseline of knowledge for the guys that you're coming in to train. How technical is it?
Yeah, so everything that we've built within inside our IP that I mentioned needs configuration. This would typically sit with a power user, so it doesn't have to be a developer. We've got obviously developers in-house that would do the IP build, but in terms of the site assessment survey, this is really something that can sit within inside the field service manager's role, because essentially what we've done when we've built it is we've actually built it using Dynamics 365 records. So when you're actually building up the questions and the answer, this is just done by creating Dynamics records, and we're actually using our site assessment survey builder to do that. So it's very much an end user, power user training session that we would run. And like I said, we really want the customers to take ownership of those surveys themselves, so that, that reduces cost, because they're actually creating their own surveys and making those tweaks when they want, without having to come to our support desk and get charged to actually make those changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, they're going to understand their workflow and be able to, like you say, make those constant ongoing changes, those tweaks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
As they see the tool live. I thought it was very interesting that the scheduling engine linked in with a parts management solution we didn't really get to see much of, but van parts management, it's a huge challenge for field service companies, because there's an awful lot of money that's tied up in stock that's in the back of the van that can kind of basically go disappear within a system, and it's still there, but nobody knows it. So it was interesting that's kind of connected in. Can you just tell me a little bit more about your kind of parts management, and especially the van parts management aspects?
Yeah, so with inside field service, we've got the full warehousing capabilities, but also we can then link that to an ERP system as well. So if your main stock is managed within the ERP system, you can actually have that integration of data passed seamlessly across, so via that common data platform that Michael mentioned. And what this means is we can actually keep in sync the stock and the parts. But inside field service itself, we get what's called a warehouse. So this actually enables the customers to set up their main warehouse, for example, and then every resource has to have a van warehouse against them. And this is typically where the stock is actually held against the van. So we can do, it's got full transfer management inside field service as well. So we can transfer the stock from the main warehouse into the van. And as that stock gets depleted, we can recognise that the stock is depleted. As part of the eBECS Field Service Accelerator, we've actually got a specific piece of functionality that actually does auto replenishment of stock as well. So we've actually built quite a lot in terms of stock management and managing those warehouse levels within inside our Accelerator. So it's definitely a big area of field service, like you say, and something that our customers really want to work on in terms of reducing the cost and improving their productivity as well.
You mentioned the Accelerator there, Alex. Michael, perhaps a good time to bring yourself in here. The title of this presentation, one of the subpoints is reducing costs. I have to put the obvious question to you. Whilst the additional IP seems fantastic, both the site survey and the Accelerator pack, obviously I assume that you're not giving those out for free. I assume there's an additional layer of cost there. So, I mean, is it essential for companies to take the Accelerator? And why do you recommend it, basically?
Okay. Yeah, it's a fair question, Chris, and I think it comes back to that whole cost versus value conversation. So I think it would be fair to say that those people that are familiar with Dynamics 365 can understand that it's a hugely configurable system. And I do mean configuration rather than customization. But if if customization is required, again, almost anything can be developed to work within Dynamics. What we're talking about here with the IP offering that eBECS have delivered, both the Accelerator and the Site Assessment Survey, is being able to deliver a lot of pre-configuration, particularly in the Accelerator case, and indeed a lot of additional functionality that doesn't come standard with the Dynamics 365 platform, which is based, as Alice alluded to there, all of that capability within our IP is based on the experience that we've had with many, many field service implementations with a very broad range of customers. So the Accelerator has been proven to reduce delivery timescales because a lot of the, as I say, it includes a lot of pre-configuration that almost all customers need, but we will always look at a customer's requirements on a case-by-case basis. I'm being completely honest with you, it is a differentiator for us. It's absolutely one of the reasons why we are the go-to partner for Microsoft field service in the UK, but we will have frank conversations with customers about whether or not there is a genuine cost benefit associated with both those pieces of IP. The Site Assessment Survey tool, being slightly different to the Accelerator, it's purely adding functionality to it. It's a tool that almost all of our customers take up because mobile is such a key part of the field service delivery process. And it really does give them the capabilities and the power to manage workflow and to ensure that the data that's being collected is referenceable and of good quality, and that's the key thing. So, as I said, we will work with every single customer to ensure that we deliver best value, and that conversation will be around costing and price for those elements.
Sure. Okay. I mean, is it as simple as any field service management solution essentially is designed to deliver return on investment? And maybe oversimplifying here, but the Accelerator, from what I can see, basically will get your clients live quicker, so they'll see the return on investment sooner. Is it that simple an equation?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to come and work for us, Chris? That's pretty good. That's exactly what it's designed to do. As I said, it does add functionality, but it also does a huge amount of pre-configuration that's been proven to reduce the number of days required to deploy it. It's also worth saying, something I should have mentioned in your previous question, is that actually all of the IP that we've developed, it's not static. We have a comprehensive team led by our product manager, Natasha Quinn, who is managing the IP as a genuine managed service offering. So it is constantly evolving, constantly being developed, and we have a very, very close relationship with Microsoft. In fact, our Tash goes over to the development teams in Microsoft over in the US, every couple of weeks to help guide them and provide insight in the development of the platform. But it means that all of our solutions have got the insight that we have 12 months ahead of market release from Microsoft. Okay. So we're staying ahead of the platform in terms of development capability, and we're taking influence from Microsoft's direction, and we're in return influencing their direction. But also, as I mentioned before, got a huge amount of market knowledge coming from a broad range of implementations who are taking that learning and building into our IP almost every single day, and it's frequently updated and released.
Okay. Let's stay with the conversation around Microsoft for a moment, because you've mentioned a couple of times in your answers there about data flowing. We've seen it throughout the presentation. We pretty much saw it right at the top on your parts of the presentation with the infinity symbol and a great kind of representation of how the data and the various business elements flow together. Is that critical now? Have we got to the point where a modern service organization cannot really function without having an easy flow of data from one business silo to the next?
Yeah. Is it critical? As in, could a business operate without it? I'm sure that in many cases the answer is yes, and in many others it's no. I think it comes down to really how effective, how efficient an organisation wants or needs to be. So any organisation that's looking at a step change in growth or a step change in efficiency to reduce costs, absolutely the first place to look is joining up those internal processes within the business, and that's where us platform providers have an advantage, because we are talking about the power of the platform, the interconnectivity between the different elements and processing elements of a business, and the ease of being able to transition data, automation of that, but also being able to surface that data in the form of real information. So those are the big pains, aren't they? And everyone knows how in field service it's such a complex business process. You've got customer inbound, you've got engineer outbound and inbound data, you've got the internal flow from resource and scheduling and operations and parts and procurement, and invoicing, billing, whether it's you're going out to fix a washer on a broken tap or whether you're going out to build a new house. Every single field service organization has got to do every single part of that element for every single call. And any organization that's truly wishing to look at a step change in efficiency really does need to look at how not just the field service element of that, which can very often be restrictive in people's eyes between the back office to the engineer and back again bit. They need to broaden that view to include all of the rest of it and how the interdependencies within the organisation work to be able to facilitate more greater efficiency. So
yeah, absolutely. It's whether it be the accounting, whether it be the payroll, whether it be processing of invoices, whether it be parts management, all of these various elements are going to fit marketing even, will all feed off of each other.
Well, absolutely, and if I can just come in with one very brief example, I've been speaking with the customer just this very week, in fact, and they're talking about the fact that they've got the sales team out there going out winning new contracts, but they don't have sufficient visibility to be able to then forecast and project that, so that their HR team can then start gearing up for subcontractor engagement and permanent employee onboarding, so that then their resource scheduling team have then got the resources to be able to start building a plan for delivering their services out in the field. And that's exactly the kind of model that we're talking about. And within Dynamics 365, you're talking about the leveraging sales management, the new talent application using its integration with LinkedIn, and the field service and project service automation. Those 4 key tools there within Dynamics 365, linking all of that process up and being able to provide automated insight for each of those various departments. So that's just one example of thousands where the power of the platform, bringing it all together, is key.
Yeah. I've got one last question for you guys, and I want to go back to there was an early slide in the presentation that had some great statistics, I think from Forrester, if my memory serves me right, where we were looking at statistics around improving customer satisfaction, statistics around improving internal productivity and field service productivity. I'm just curious, when companies are coming to you and they're knocking on your door and they're saying, hey, we need a solution, are they coming to you and they're saying we need to improve productivity? Or are they coming to you and saying we need to improve customer satisfaction? Or are they coming to you and saying we need to do everything at once? And is there a correlation between those two as well? So kind of a 2-part question there. Is there a correlation between the two? Will I improve my customer satisfaction by simply improving my productivity and vice versa? I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it was something that struck a real chord with me, that slide.
Yeah, it does make sense, absolutely. And I think you bang on the money in that the two are interrelated. They're directly proportionate. You increase your efficiency. One of the key benefits of that will be that your customer service, whether it be in terms of first time response, or first time fix rates, or whichever KPIs you're focusing on with regards to customer satisfaction will improve. The more efficient you are as an organization, the more agile you are to be able to respond to increasing or fluctuating demand. I think the real kind of the extension of that question is really where the organization's focus lies now, in a year's time, in 2, 3, 5, 10 years time. And that's where partnering with somebody like eBECS, where we have got consultants that aren't just technical consultants, but they're business consultants. These are people from industry that know how the field service market works. We can genuinely help consult and guide organisations to be able to best derive those decisions. So, we can sit down and have conversations around, are you looking, if I'm being bluntly honest here, to lop heads and increase the efficiency in the department in order to reduce headcount? Or are you looking to reapportion, efficiency savings to be able to develop another capability, another service offering, another, an extension into a new geographical area, and so on. So once we get under the skin of what an organisation's aspirations are, we can then bring our technology expertise in to be able to demonstrate how we can assist in getting to that point.
And that brings us to the end of this webcast, but it's just for me to say thanks ever so much to Alice and Michael from eBECS. Some great insight there. You'll find information on how to access the eBECS website, where you can find further information and contact details for both Michael and Alice. And of course, time for me to say thank you as always for watching. My name's Kris Oldland. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Field Service News, and I'll see you again next time. Take care.